Okay, this is from the book Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. We're continuing in order. This is Hans Eysenck. And so he was a famous psychologist. He wrote over 700 papers, a real cantankerous, kind of brilliant guy. He pissed off a lot of people because he's very opinionated. He did research, especially on personality theory. He did a lot of research on IQ. He did a lot of research on psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, and all that stuff. And he was always pissing people off because he'd say stuff nobody wanted to hear. Like he basically said, the more psychotherapy the patient goes to, the worse the patient does. He says if you just leave them alone, they do just as well as if they went to psychotherapy. He wrote a book called Genius. And it was okay, but I didn't think there was that much. I read a whole bunch of books on genius and how does one develop intelligence and stuff, and I don't really think he added that much to it. But here's another one of his quotes. Psychotherapy is the prostitution of friendship. There appears to be an inverse relationship between recovery and psychotherapy. And you could challenge that and say, well, that's because the ones who are sick need to go to more psychotherapy. But he also said roughly 2/3 of a group of neurotics will recover or improve to a marked extent within 2 years, regardless of whether or not they were treated with psychotherapy or psychoanalysis or not. A scientist owes the world only one thing, and that is the truth as he sees it. If the truth contradicts deeply held beliefs, that is too bad. Tact and diplomacy are fine in international relations, perhaps even in business. But in science, the only thing that matters is, and that is the fact. And I'll give him credit here that in a sense he's like trying to pass the Solomon Asch test. What he's basically saying is, whatever results I get, that's what the truth is. And if your business doesn't want it, well then too bad. Because there is a lot of pressure in science. Like nowadays, you either get what the results the corporation wants or your research gets blocked, your funding gets taken away. So you do need scientists to have some bravery, and that's why the good ones should get tenure, because otherwise they can't do any real work. This personality theory stuff I think is mostly overrated. He says we need to study personality and try to understand it because it helps predict people's behavior. Let's see. And so then there's more on that personality therapy stuff. Yeah, and it's a difficult thing to describe. I like some of the personality theory quotes, like of Adler. Okay, just a couple more quotes and we'll call it a day for today. Edward Everett Hale. I am only one person. I can't do everything, but I can do something, and I will not let what I cannot do interfere with what I can do. Yeah, and I think that's a good attitude. We all wish we could do more. We wish we had more ability, more power, more time, but we don't, so it's like the Jules Renard quote, life isn't all that we want it to be, but it's all we have, so you just do the best with it. Oriana Fallaci, sort of a hot-headed lady, she said, we are in an age without leaders. We stopped having leaders at the end of the 20th century. It was a little bit before that. No matter what system you live under, there's no escaping the law, and that is, it's always the strongest, the cruelest, the least generous who win. That's kind of sad, true, that a lot of times the evil ones are powerful, well-organized, and have money, and then people who want good, they're weak, they're lazy, most of them are kind of unmotivated, stupid, and so quite often an aggressive, well-organized, evil power will take over and control things. There are moments in life when keeping silent becomes a fault and speaking an obligation, a civic duty, a moral challenge, a categorical imperative from which we cannot escape. Okay, so that's a bit of a Kantian quote there, Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant was sort of a weasel and a hippie, but she's still kind of making some good points. She does some good things. So she's a bit of a hothead and she oversteps, but she also a lot of times kind of has her heart in a good place. And here's like a good quote from Oriana Fallaci. The moment you give up your principles and your values, you are dead. Your culture is dead. Your civilization is dead, period. And I think she's got a good point there. So basically, why do we allow these modern art museums that we know are completely fake? Why do we allow that? Why do we allow the arts and the colleges and popular culture to be degraded? Why do we allow multiculturalism to say other cultures are equal to Western civilization when for most things they're obviously not? There's no culture equal to Western civilization for the production of art and music and literature. And I say art, I mean painting and sculpture and architecture. There aren't. We should say ours is the best. Why shouldn't you be proud of your culture? You tell other cultures to be proud of your culture. Why aren't you proud of your own culture when it actually is objectively the best at those things and at many other things? Because a population that doesn't value its culture, it just gets taken over, okay? You have to value your culture and pass it on to the younger generation. Otherwise, it disappears. And you will say, well, so what? Well, I'll tell you what so what is. Most cultures are brutal dictatorships. And if you don't stand up for the good things that your society developed towards freedom and free speech and privacy and property and all that, it'll be taken away from you. It is in most places. So hopefully it won't continue in that direction. Anyways, that's the quotes for today. Hope that was interesting or helpful.